Apa tu? Ready, 3, 2, 1. Assalamualaikum and good morning to everyone who are joining us for today. Welcome to all school students, teachers, parents from all around the Malaysia. Not forgetting all UMS students and all UMS staff present in this session today. Thank you, and we meet again for today's session of STEM Speaker Series. For those who join us for the first time, this STEM Speaker Series is a co-joint effort with the Borneo Marine Research Institute, Universiti Malaysia Sabah, which is aimed to deliver unique and interesting STEM topics designed by subject matter experts to increase the interest of school students, teachers, and community alike to venture in the field of STEM. For any question from audience today, please feel free to drop your question on the chat box at the right side of this YouTube live session. Please be informed that for today's session, e-certificate will be given to school students and Universiti Malaysia Sabah students, but to receive the e-certificate, student must fill in the form through the QR code, which will be shared at the end of the program today. So please stay tuned with us. With us today is a distinguished academician from the Borneo Marine Research Institute, Universiti Malaysia Sabah. I present to you Dr. Audrey Tuzan. Let me talk about her background before we present this event. Dr. Audrey Tuzan is a senior lecturer in the aquaculture program, Universiti Malaysia Sabah. She received her PhD in aquaculture in 2018 from University of Tasmania, Australia, and a master and bachelor's degree in the same field from Universiti Malaysia Sabah. Her research focused on the field of aquaculture and the psychology and behavior of aquatic animals. She has served as a lecturer at Universiti Malaysia Sabah since 2009 and has led several projects and published several journals articles related to the fish and crustaceans, sensory organs, behavior and psychology. Among the species, she has studied African catfish, river catfish, grouper, sea bass, lobster, and prawns. So, without further ado, please welcome Dr. Audrey Tuzan with her topic, What a Fish Knows. Doctor, please be invited.
Okay, a very good morning, everyone. Can you hear me loud and clear? And thank you to Izzat, our moderator for this morning. And thank you for everyone for joining me as well this morning. Okay, before I start, let me share my slide. Okay, can you see? Is it clear? Okay. Okay, once again, thank you for everyone who joined me this morning, and thank you for spending your time to join us in New Science, where this morning, I hope everyone is doing well, good, despite all this pandemic during COVID time. So for today, I'll be talking about what a fish knows. So maybe some of you might be asking yourself, can the fish really hear sound? Can they listen to you when you try to talk with them? Like maybe you own an aquarium at home, so you try to speak to your fish. Can they really hear you? Or do fish can see colors? If you go underwater, you can see there's colorful coral. So can these fish really see colors? So how do they find food? How do they avoid from their predators? And how do they find the habitat? And how do they find their partners and even their friends? Like some fish, they swim with their with company with their friends. So this morning, I'll be explaining some of this information to all of you. So previously, if you participate in the presentation which was presented by my good friend, so she has presented like 20 fun facts about fish. Like she explained how do fish sleep, do fish really sleep, how do fish really feel pains, do they have lungs? So you haven't watched this video, maybe after this you can try to find her video on this U-Science page. So spend your time and learn about these 20 fun facts about fish. So today I'll be sharing the slightly different information from my friend. So where I'll be sharing like exposing dark secret of fishes, which maybe some of us still don't really know about it. So I'll be explaining about the fish senses, is fish intelligence enough, and about the fish habits as well. So, so first of all, do fish have brain? Maybe some of us been thinking like human do have brain. So do fish have brain? So typically, fish do have brain. They also like human, and their brain is more or less similar to us. However, they have like quite small brains relative to their body size in comparison to other vertebrates. So here, So here you can see that they have cerebrum. They do have like hippocampus. So more or less they do have brain similar to human. So fish, they have nervous system, which is part of the animal's body that coordinates its behavior, and it transmits signals between different body areas. So this nervous system can be divided into three: forebrain, midbrain, and hindbrain. So the forebrain consists of these olfactory tracts and cerebrum. Okay, here's the cerebrum, and this is the olfactory part of the fish. So they, meaning to say, they can receive and receive information, and this information from the sensory organ, which later on will be sent to the brain, to the other part of the brain. So the next part is midbrain. So midbrain consists of the optic nerve for the fish to see. And lastly, they have hindbrain, where hindbrain they have consists of cerebellum, which helps the fish to coordinate some voluntary movement and some involuntary movement. So voluntary movement that like motor skills, coordination, like how they swim, and the other part of the hindbrain is medulla oblongata, where it's responsible for involuntary activities such as like this kind of like spontaneous. And they do have the pituitary gland, where hormone secretes in pituitary gland. So human, we have 5 sensory organs. We have like skin, tongue, eyes, ears, and nose. So do fish actually have this sensory organ? Yes, they do. Fish have sensory organ varies in regards to their ecological factors such as the habitat and lifestyle. They can smell, they can see, like they have vision, they can hear, they can listen, and they can taste. And how they do that? How do they test? I will explain later on. And they have lateral line. So again, this is the brand of fish. So if you can see, this is African catfish, river catfish, or known as pangasius. And this is red tilapia. So if you can see, the shape of each of these fish are slightly different. Like African catfish, they have smaller optical tectum. Here is the optical tectum in comparison to tilapia, which they have quite large. And if you see these two fish, these two catfishes, they have these electrosensitive lateral lines. So which means they can sense electric, electric. So, and from this, by looking at their brain, we can know more or less about the lifestyle of the fish. We can predict if this fish using the eyes as the main sensory organ or not. So first, I will explain about fish eye. So fish eye, actually, if you look, they have the same eye structure to us. So they are similar. So they have lens. They do have cornea, a layer of cornea, and they do have optic nerve, and they have retina. So what makes them slightly different from us? Like humans, we do have, this is our lens. This looks like almost flat, but in fish, they have like round lens. So what is so special about this round lens? This round lens give fish a greater peripheral vision, meaning they have wide angle in comparison to us. As a human, we can see like whatever angle, like here, this is our angle of our vision. But for fish, because they have both sides on the eyes, like on the right and on the left, they have wider angle in compared to us. So this is specialty about fish. Another special thing about fish, like if I go for diving or if I go for swimming, I do need goggles, or else I'm gonna have like sore eyes. Like it's really uncomfortable. But for fish, they don't need this like mask. They don't need goggles. They are so special. So because they have this like a layer of protective film on the eye surface, which allows them to see more clearly underwater. So I wish, I don't know, sometimes I wish like I am a fish because I can see clear without mask, like they can see clear. So if you go underwater, even if you're not a diver, if you just go to the, like if you watch the documentary on TV or in the aquarium, so you can see actually underwater world is kind of like really colorful. Like fish are colorful, the corals are really beautiful, they are colorful. But have you ever wondered, like, yeah, some of my students do ask me, but do they really see all these colors? So next, I will be explaining about that. Even fish, they have colorful body, but sadly, like this fish, flounder, they looks like more or less like the color of the sand. And offshore fish like tuna, yeah, amberjack or marlin, they look silver or like kind of bluish color. But coral fish, they are colorful. So these fish, some of the fish can see colors. So inshore fish, for example, those coral fish, they have a good color vision, whereas these offshore fish, like those pelagic fish who lives quite a depth, they actually have limited color vision. They can only detect few colors, which is either black or white. So in the eyes, same like us, fish do have cone cells and two visual cells, cone cells and rod cells. So this is the rod cells, and this is two types of cone cells. So rod cells help the fish to see in the very low light intensity. However, cone cells, they have helped the fish to see in the higher light spectrum, or it helps as well in color vision. So there are two types of cone cells. So single cone and double cone. Single cone helps the fish to see like blue color, whereas the double cone, they help the fish to see green and kind of like orange and red color. So what color do fish can see actually? Fish can distinguish color over wavelength ranging from ultraviolet to red. So all colors will gradually dull as they go deeper. So for example, red, orange, yellow, green. So red can be seen up to like 10 feet or 10 feet or like by the depth of 6 meters. gone. Can't see red color. Like the fish can't see red color. But green can penetrate more, like up to 30 feet. So if you go fishing, maybe some of you like to go fishing, loves to go fishing, you need a lure. So depends the depth, how deep do you want to go for fishing? Like you have to determine the color of your lure. So for example, if you are aiming for a deep fish, which stays below 30 feet, I reckon maybe you don't want to use red color, or else actually the fish can't see the red color bait or lure. So you have to consider that, like 2 tips. So if you go diving, you need red filter. Some of my friends, when I go diving, they said, why do I need red filter? Because as I mentioned earlier on, red color will be absorbed first. So as you go deeper, the color or things that you can see is slightly different without red filter. So with red filter, it enhances the color of the corals. So here are the tips. If you go for scuba diving, get a red filter so that you have beautiful photos. Another thing, like, okay, this is a dolphin. Dolphin actually don't really see colors. They are colorblind. Sadly, they are cute, but they are colorblind. And they cannot see blue. So they're colorblind actually. But I'm talking about fish. Although fish in Malay, it's called as ikan lumba-lumba. Ikan means fish. Maybe some of you are not from Malaysia, but dolphin is not a fish. Dolphins is a mammal. And another is whale. Whale is as well, they can only see shades of gray, and they just rely more on contrast of the colors. So they are colorblind too. So unfortunately, and whales is not a fish. They are mammals too. Because in Malay, again, ikan paus, and you might think, oh, whale is a fish. No, they are not fish. Okay, this is interesting thing. Maybe you don't know. Like fish do have third eyes. Have you ever heard third eyes? Some people say like I have third eyes. In human, when you said you have third eyes, you can see ghosts. Maybe it's a myth. But do you really think fish have third eyes? Okay. So yes, they have third eyes, but third eyes is actually it's called as pineal organ. So it's a photosensory organ which helps the fish to receive information about light and dark cycle. So how does fish know it's dark? It's nighttime. Some fish are nocturnal. So they use this pineal organ to receive information. Okay, it's dark. It's about time for me to go to sleep. Yeah, fish go to sleep without closing their eyes. This has been explained by my friend before. So this pineal organ will send information to the pineal gland so that this pineal gland will produce and secretes hormone which is known as melatonin. Maybe some of you ever heard melatonin, like especially those who having problem sleeping at night. So maybe your GP or your doctor will recommend you to get melatonin because melatonin is hormone that helps you to sleep. So it's being secreted by the pineal gland. So here is like the pineal organ of the fish. Like it looks fluorescent here. So if you see under microscope, this is a pineal organ for river catfish. And if you see from histology, through histological slides, you can see this is the pineal organ. So it's a photoresponse that can be mediated by the pineal organ. For the larvae, even because some fish larvae, when they hatch out, they doesn't have a functional eyes, but pineal organ helps them to detect the light. So pineal organ is a luminescence detector, and it's not a directed signal information detector. Okay. So this is a Mexican blind catfish. So this fish is blind. Why they're blind? Because they don't have eyes. Because this is like evolutionary. Because this fish, for them, maintaining eyes and the visual part in the brain use a lot of energy. So in order for them to not to use a lot of energy, they lost their eyes. So it's a big advantage for this animal to live in the dark. And they have this pineal organ for them to detect the light. So for your information, study has been shown that these fish, they have a small brain and small and shrinking brain because, like I mentioned earlier on, the eyes and the visual part of the brain is use a lot of energy. Okay, another interesting part about fish, maybe if you notice fish in the dark, let's say you have aquarium at home, or maybe if you're diving again, so you can see some fish eye glow, but human, we don't have a glowing eyes. Why? Because this glowing eyes is caused by the retinal septum. So fish like river catfish or even cats, they can see in the dark, which is actually night vision. So for night vision, that's why fish, cats, they can dogs, most animals see during the night, except as we have retinal. So it helps them to absorb very low light intensity. So if you see observe under microscope, this is the retinal tatum of the fish. So deep sea fish, because they live very deep, they do have retinal tatum as well. Like most fish, they do have retinal tatum. Okay, another organ, sensory organ, can fish smells like they have a system or a chemoreceptor. Use receptor sense food. Like okay, where is the food? So this information like chemical substance is inside the water and it goes into the fish nose like by using water flow, and from there they can detect where's the food. So olfactory organ is not only used for the by the fish to find food, but it's also help them in finding mates, finding their friends, avoiding predators, to avoid from predators, of course, imprinting and homing. So, so actually fish, they're able to detect smells underwater far way better than us. And because and very humans can like they have more highly sensitive nose in comparison to us. So how does the nose of a fish looks like? So they have two holes, like they have two nose, like a pair of nose, not two nose, a pair of nose, and each nose they have two holes, which brings in current and ex current. So the water will go through the nose. So inside the nose, they have all these lamella. It's called lamella. And these lamella, they have a lot of like folds. Why do they have folds? Because to increase the surface. So more folding, more like if they have more folds, you can know these fish have very high sensitive olfactory organs because they have more surface. So in each of these, on the olfactory epithelium or lamella, they have all these tiny sensory hair, and which will send the information to the brain like, okay, I can smell food over there. And if you see, this is salmon. Maybe some of you know that salmon, when they hatch out in the river, and as they grow bigger, they will migrate to the sea. But salmon only have one life cycle. So they migrate to the sea, and when it's about time for them to spawn, they will move back to the river. So how they move back? They use the olfactory organs. Olfactory organs is actually very important. So for them to go back to the spawning area or to the place where it belongs, like where they have at the first time. So salmon actually can smell chemicals down to 1 million. 1 million means very like the nose very super sensitive. Next. Okay, I've explained about olfactory organ. Another organ that helps them to find food. An olfactory organ help them to detect food. But once they detect, they need something to taste, like we have tongue to taste. But what about fish? Do they have tongue? They have taste bud. We have taste bud. Fish do have taste bud. We don't have taste bud on our skin. Like fish, they do have taste bud on the skin surface, like around the body, like on the face, on the head part, the body part, inside, sometimes in the gills, in the buccal cavity, meaning buccal cavity is deep inside the mouth, on the lips, on the fish do have tongue. So in the mouth, so they have a lot of these taste bud. So taste bud, they have taste pores. So this is African catfish. They have barbel. On their barbel, they do have taste bud. So for African catfish, they have 27,000 of taste bud. That's kind of a lot. Like when I study about African catfish sensory organ, and like when my supervisor said like you have to count the taste bud, like oh my god, this is like a lot. It's really impossible to count the taste bud. So like most of the body part is covered by taste bud. So if you see like some fish, they have more taste bud than the other fish, meaning that fish is used more, like maybe taste bud is like chemoreceptor, the taste bud is their primary organ. So yeah. So this is catfish. This is the studying that I've done with my previous colleague. So we observe this is taste bud, how it looks like. And this is the barbell. So we have taste bud on the barbell. And this is the inside the mouth in the buccal cavity, like near the gills, like insang. So they have taste bud as well. And this is the fins, sirip of the fish, and they have taste bud as well. And the mouth taste bud on the lips, inside the mouth. So that's why it's explained why they have like 27,000 of taste bud. Next is sensory organ is Mechanoreceptor, which is Mechanoreceptor they have inner ear and lateral line system. So fish have ears. Fish doesn't have like we have ears outside our body, but fish have inner ear. And they have this lateral line. Maybe if you see fish, if you help your mom to cut the fish or to clean the fish, if you notice, there's a line on the middle part of the fish. It's called lateral line. So it helps the fish to detect water disturbance. So let's say the fish swimming and suddenly just pass through them, they can feel or like, hey, my friend, I can see you there next to me. So without the eyes, or maybe they don't use the eyes, but they can use the lateral lines. So that is the function of the lateral line. So do all fish have lateral line? Pretty much yes. So most fish have lateral lines. So actually, yeah, like these fish, they have kind of weird lateral lines, like kind of zigzag, and these fish have like straight lateral lines. It brings meaning for them. So what is lateral lines like look like? It's actually this is how the lateral lines looks like in the skin. This inside the skin. It goes inside the skin. And inside this skin, they have a neuromus. It's called neuromus. Neuromus, this is the sensory hairs, which actually helps them to detect the vibration. So it's covered by cupula. Cupula is pretty fragile. So this is what actually the inside the lateral line. So if you remove the cupula, you can see these sensory hairs. So when does the lateral line start to appear on fish? This is from my findings, which I learned during my master degree. This is mass grouper, or I can't remember their English name, another English name. So this is a mouse grouper. They have the lateral line even when they hatch out. It's not called lateral line when they hatch like during larval stage. We call it pheneromas because it's on the skin surface. As they grow bigger, it will sink under the skin, and that's what it forms the lateral line. So like a newly hatched larvae, they have one pheneromas here behind the eyes on the head. So meaning they can sense vibration. So like as they grow bigger, they have more and more neuromas. So during that time, when we try to catch a lava fish, if you use a pipette, or when you try to catch them with a beaker, sometimes they escape. They don't really use the eyes, but they use the neuromas to feel the vibration. When you put the pipette inside the water, they can feel the vibration produced by this action, and they're just like, phew, escape, they run away. So this is the function of the neuromas. So if you observe under a microscope, scanning ultra microscope, the neuromas actually at first on the surface, outside, like outside, not inside the skin, on the skin surface. And as they grow bigger, you can see holes. Actually, the neuromas sink inside. I explained early on. So I have explained just now what is the neuromas, and this is the sensory hair. If the direction of the water current coming from the right or left, so this sensory hair will send the information to the fish, like, okay, currents coming from the right. So that's how fish knows where are their predators or where are the prey, because sensory hair will send this information. So like this is a predator and this is a prey. So this predator try to attack this prey, but they produce vibration when they move, when they swim. So this fish use the cubula. Inside they have sensory hair. That's how they feel like, oh, someone is chasing me. Okay, I better escape. And they start to swim faster. Next is, have you ever wondered? We go to school. Do fish go to school? So most fish actually exhibit schooling during some phase of the life cycle, but they don't go to school like us. What schools means for fish is this. So this is a school of fish, like fish goes in a group, we call a school. So how do they make this schooling behavior? They use the vision and they use the lateral line. So these are the two major sensory organs for the fish to use when they form the schooling behavior. So they do this kind of behavior to protect themselves from several things. For example, like predators. This one fish, this is a shark. One. If this single fish swimming alone, okay, the shark might see, oh, it's a small fish, it's food. But let's say a fish from a big school, or the shark might get confused. Is it a small fish or is it a big fish? It might look like a big fish. That's not my food. So sometimes this is the function when fish form a school to confuse their predator. So it's protect themselves from the predator. Same like this. This is a marlin fish trying to attack this maybe kind of like herring fish, smaller fish. So when the fish smalls swim in the school, they can protect themselves much better. But for okay, they can protect themselves for much better. Like the fish won't be like getting hard for the marlin fish to get the food. So another thing, for example, like dolphin you form a school when they hunt for food. So here, a group of dolphin, like 4 dolphins here, 1 dolphin this side, like this one. Okay, I'm gonna chase this small little food fish here, my food, my prey. And the fish said, like, okay, let's run from the dolphin. But oopsie, I have 4 more dolphins here. Okay, yeah, dinner time. Let's eat together. That's how the tactic for dolphins. They form the school. And dolphin form a school in like a group to fight against shark. Maybe you've seen it this before. You can find in YouTube. So this is how they protect themselves from predator. Another things why they do schooling behavior, because it helps them hydrodynamically interaction for them to swim more efficient. So if you see a cyclist during race day, this like a group of cyclists, where will you put yourself? Will you cycle right in front, on the side, or in the middle? As a cyclist, you know where you want to put yourself if you cycle in a group. So because it can help you to cycle more efficient due to the hydrodynamic interaction. Same like fish when they swim in the group. This is kind of like the technique to improve their swimming and where they can save a little bit of their energy, not to swim, not to spend more energy in swimming. For a pelagic swim, the fish, swimming use a lot of energy, but if they swim in the school, they help them to reserve a little bit of energy. So when they form a school, do they have leaders? No, fish doesn't have leaders. Anyone can become leaders. That's how interesting about fish. But they might have like dominant fish, but they don't really have leader when they form a school. Okay, next is, can the fish hear you? Especially when you knock the tank, knock the aquarium. Can they really hear you like you knock? Hey, human, are you calling me? So have you ever wondered if they can hear you? Yep, they do have ears. They have inner ears. Inner ears help them for two things, hearing and balancing. They have this, if you see, you can see these white things is at otolith. Otolith is made from calcium. It's kind of hard. Actually, it's denser in the water, denser than the water, and denser than the fish body, meaning denser is berat. Fish, they have telinga, and they have this otolith. So otolith, apart from this otolith, they will sense vibration. So it helps the fish to sense vibration. So yeah, fish do have a pair of ears. So in the early larva stage, like for example, this fish is 6 hours after hatching. They have inner ears and they have otolith. Okay, fish have three section of ears in the ear, in the inner ear. So they have three otolith. So here they have two little otolith, if you can see here. So that's how fish in the early stage they can even listen, they can even hear, because this otolith will sense vibration. Otolith, apart from producing vibration, you can also identify the fish age from this otolith. So maybe you can find this information from the internet, or if I got a chance in the future, I can explain more interesting things about fish and where I can explain about otolith. So the otolith will grow as the fish grow, meaning the structure will develop more. When the structure develop more, meaning the ears getting more sensitive. So the fish use the ear for reproduction, where they can find where's the mat, and for avoiding predators, how to detect the prey, and to defend from territorial, and they can hear alarm sounds, for example, even boat sounds, like ship sounds, or yeah, a lot of things. So they can use the inner ear to hear. But inner ear help them to balance when swimming. Without inner ear, the fish doesn't swim, can't balance themselves. So water is actually a unique habitat for fish. All fish lives in the water. Without water, they will die. So it carries vibration farther than air, meaning udara. So ya, air lebih membawa bunyi lebih berbanding udara. So that's why, like, like in comparison in the air, meaning udara berbanding air in the water, the vibrations can be sensed more in the water. For example, fish bombing. There's one time when I went for diving and then suddenly, poof, I can hear something like, oh, is that a fish bombing? And I was looking at my other friends, like everyone looks like okay, pretending nothing wrong. But when we get to the surface, and I asked my dive instructor, and he's like, yeah, there's a fish bombing. It's like far, far away. It wasn't pretty close to Earth. So it was really loud for me. Like, not really, but it's kind of loud for me. But actually, it's far. So meaning to say, water, when in the water, you can hear sounds more clearly in comparison in the air, in the surface, like, yeah, in where we live. So that's why, like fish, they have very sensitive ears. They can locate all the sounds produce vibration. So they can locate all the sounds where it comes from, right, left, or wherever. So another interesting as well, like fish, some fish larvae, when the fish hatch, they go offshore, like meaning they're just floating, or they are pelagic. But as they grow bigger, they need to go to the coral to settle, to find their habitat. So maybe some of you wonder, hey, how the fish knows like if like where to go? Where is my place for me to stay? So actually coral do produce sounds. So this is how the fish can listen to the sounds produced by the coral. And they were like, okay, there's a coral in that place. I'm gonna go that place, and there's where I'm gonna settle. Not only corals, and not only fish, invertebrates do the same thing, like lobster. They listen to the coral sound. Corals will produce sound, they will listen, and corals will as well release some chemicals, like we call chemical cue, for the invertebrates to, even the fish and invertebrates to settle. Like, yeah. So important, corals is important for the fish habitat. So as we know, like now is everybody's talking about climate change. Climate change will may cause like cyclones, like high temperature rise, and then high temperature rise, and with these cyclones, will destroy the coral reef, which is pretty bad and pretty sad. But if you know that coral reef actually is the place for the fish, is a home for the fish. So with all these climate change, it destroys these corals, and the fish have nowhere to go. They cannot find their place they cannot find their home. So sad. Like without corals, corals don't produce sound. I don't know where should I settle. So studies shown that quieter reefs, because of less corals, attract fewer younger fish. So you can imagine what happened when the fish doesn't have home. So that's why corals is important for the fish. Another organ is the electroreceptor, which is known as ampullae of Lorenzini. So some fish or more, many fish have electroreceptor. They can sense electric. They can use this organ to detect very weak electronic fields underwater. So this electroreceptor can be found like on the nose, mouth, eyes. So each of these electroreceptor, which connects to the water by the sensing cells. They have these sensing cells, and they have this gel. So this is how the single of the electroreceptor in the fish skin surface. So, for example, this feed organ is used by shark for them to detect their prey, because shark doesn't really cannot see. Sometimes they cannot see the prey, but they can smell. Like they have a lot of organs, like sensory organs, which I have explained earlier on. But some fish, when they produce some electronic fields underwater. So this shark can use this electroreceptor to find their prey. So about 350 species of fish have this specialized anatomical structure which generates and detect electrical signals. So in the underwater where lights is really low, so these electrical signals offer another great way to communicate, to navigate, and to find, and sometimes to stun the prey, like shock. They will produce some very weak electronic fields, like electric, what, like volt, to just stun the prey. Like, okay, I can't move. Like, for example, if you touch and you get electric shock, you can't move. So that's how they do. So this is a shark. So if you can see here, they have a lot of these like tiny like pores. Looks like pimples, right? So this pore is called the ampullae of Lorenzini. It found on, on the nose, mouth, eyes, and it's used to sense very weak electronic fields underwater. Okay, next is, this is a knifefish. They have a very weak electronic fish. Okay, sorry, I have to drink water. Okay, this electronic knifefish is the most powerful and strongly electric fish. I think they're the most powerful electric fish, which they can generate up to 600 volts of electric charge. So they use this to stun the prey and like to keep away the predator. Like if the predator comes closer, okay, they just generate electric charge. Like, hey, stay away. Can you feel my electric charge, my electric vibes? So if they want to hunt something like, I'm gonna give you some electric shock, stay there. So I'm gonna eat you. So this like rays, they can also produce electric discharge ranging from 8 to 220 volts. So it depends on the species. So here's an example of 3 different rays. So the distribution of the electroreceptor is different according to the species. They have more on the ventral, which is on the top part, in comparison to the dorsal, the lower part, the belly part. So you see, and the heads, they have more. Yeah. So as a conclusion, the fish, they can, now you know fish can see, they can hear, they can smell, they can taste, and they can feel. They can feel you. So actually, fish do feel pain. Sometimes people ask, or for animal ethics, do fish feel pain? Yep, they do feel pain. So handle your fish with care and love because they do feel pain. They need to be loved. Don't abuse your fish. So like if you have like children, like they have a bowl of fish, put their hands inside trying to chase the fish. That's not nice. So handle your fish with love and be gentle. So okay, if you want to know more about fish and how do they adopt in the environment, maybe you can find your own effort like Google's, or maybe if I got chance in the future, you can learn more about like their fish morphology, such as the body shape, like the mouth shape, how the tail shape. If you see fish have different types of tail, and all these morphological features in the fish actually gives you an interesting information about how these fish adapt in the environment. Okay, yeah, so these are some of the information I explained, like the fish have different mouth, different gill shape, how they eat, it depends. So yeah, I hope I can explain more in future. Yeah, or you can find out your own information if you're interested in this kind of field. So until then, thank you very much for listening. And if you have any question, you can write down your question on the chat box, I reckon. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much to Dr. Audrey Tuzan for very interesting about the fish. who knows that the fish that we eat every day, such as have very significant and useful for their life. So there is a question that the audience asks, but first let me ask from one for myself. I want to ask. So as we know that fish can see like humans, right? So I want to know, how does fish adapt their eyes in the in the seawater? Because as we know, seawater is very salty, right? And how does the eye of the fish adapt to see in the salt water? Thank you.
Okay, good question. I explained early on, they have this protective layer. So we don't have this protective layer, but fish do have protective layer. So that's how they can like they can stand like if the seawater so salty masin kan sakit mata. So they have this protective layer. So yeah, marine fish have protective layer. All fish have protective layer actually.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. Okay, next question for it's your boy Jutsi. Uh, its question is, can you cook and eat all fish like other fish?
Can you what?
Can you cook and eat all fish?
Can you cook and eat all fish? I
All
think
fish, all
yes.
fish.
Semua ikan.
All fish to apa? Yeah.
All fish.
Sejenis ikan, Doktor. All fish.
Spell. Macam mana aja?
OARFISH. All fish.
I don't know. I'll never try. I'm not sure. Maybe if I say yes, sekali poison, mati pula saya kena cakap. So I don't know. Maybe because some fish they can produce poison, they toxin. So you have to have some like chef, very expert chef to slaughter and to process to handle the fish before you can eat them. So I'm not sure about these fish if they can be consumed.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. Okay, for the next question is from it's your boy Jutsi also. Okay, his question is, how does a black swallow eat other fish that are bigger than itself?
How does a
Big swallower eat other fishes that are bigger than itself?
maybe like okay, some fish like they can form like schools to eat together, like some like maybe because of the mouth size. So depends. Actually, there are many factors like how these fish can eat, which are slightly bigger than them. But normally, fish won't eat like okay. So let's say if this fish is big, and you're just like this, how you want to eat this fish? So either you hunt them in a group, or this fish already died, and you can just like munch them. So fish won't actually attack like smaller fish won't attack big fish like in one go.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. Okay, for the next question from Arthur, how long do the fish live?
Depends on species. So some fish lives longer, some have a very short lifespan. So yeah, depends on species.
Okay, thank you very much. Next question from Justin Leong Yu Suen. His question is fish fearful with the divers?
Okay, some fish kind of like friendly. So like this is based on my experience because if I go underwater when I go diving, I love diving. So if I go diving, I realize some fish are curious. Some fish they're just trying to get closer to you, but some fish are just like they just run away, they just swim away and scared. So it depends on the species. Some fish do actually friendly. So like I said, if I go underwater, maybe some like different diver have different perspective when they go diving. But personally, for me, I will look at the fish, how they swim. Like, yeah, my view of perspective when I go diving is slightly different. So I will look how they swim there, how they behave. Like anemone fish, Nemo, like most of you know is at Nemo. If you try to swim closer to them, especially during mating time, like the male, they will just like try to chase you away. So like like, hey, go away, don't disturb me. So like they are very fierce. Nemo, they are very small in compared to me when I go diving. I'm big. But they are very fierce actually. So yeah, some fish are friendly, some fish are very fierce, some are like scared. Yeah, depends on species.
Okay, thank you, doctor. Next question from it's your boy Jutsi also. How does a pufferfish become fat?
Oh, how if you try to scare, to provoke them, they will just like blown up. Itu jadi besar, jadi balloon. It's a they have this kind of like mechanism so that like like they suddenly like looks like balloon like okay big. That's how actually they were to scare. They can't look like they look as maybe like predator, so it's a kind of like tactic or mechanism for them to scare their predator. So yeah, like just like don't know.
Okay, thank you for the answer, doctor. Next question from Justin Leong. Why some fish is always skinny while the others are plump?
Why some fish are skinny and why others are plump?
Yes.
Uh, are you referring to same species or different species? Okay, wait, this question can be answered in two ways. If there are some species, if there are same species, uh, maybe the other one eats more than the other fish. Why? Because either one is more dominant than the other one, which is more subordinate, or they have higher metabolism in comparison to the other one. If this answer can be applied if they are coming from the same species, but if they are not from the same species, yeah, depends on species. So some species fish looks plump, some look skinny. So for example, like just now, knife fish looks skinny, right? That is how they look like. That is how God create them to be skinny and looks like a knife. That's how they get name as a knife fish. Compare ikan buntal kan, dia memang sudah besar.
Okay, thank you, doctor. Next question from Justin Leong also. Dr. Audrey, apakah jurusan yang diambil oleh doktor semasa di universiti?
Okay, masa university saya ambil during my diploma time, I took fishery, perikanan. And then all the way from my degree up to my PhD, I took aquaculture, which is also aquaculture means we do breeding, not only fish, but aquatic organisms. So if you're interested in learning more about fish, you can go for either studying about marine biology, marine science, or aquaculture. But personally, I did my study on fishery and aquaculture.
Oh, wow, nice. Thank you, doktor. Okay, next question from Jordan. Nak tanya, kalau spesies ikan itu tinggal jauh dari dasar laut, adakah ianya dapat mempengaruhi saiz pembesaran spesies ikan tersebut?
Jauh dari dasar laut, meaning dia di atas, jauh dari dasar laut. Atau dia jauh di dalam dasar laut?
Uh, di dalam laut mungkin, atau mungkin di sungai kah, ataupun macam mana? Adakah dia
Okay.
mempengaruhi?
Because like I explained earlier on kan, fish dia punya kelebihan masing-masing. So some fish they live very deep inside kan. So dia tetap boleh hidup because mungkin dia tidak guna mata, they're not using eyes if they stay deep underwater, but they have like electro receptor, mechanoreceptor, chemoreceptor to find their food. So sebab tu setiap ikan tergantung kepada spesies, dia punya sensory organ itu berbeza. So that's how they adapt to the environment.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. Okay, for the last question from Joy Hannah, Doctor, how much species of fish that have in the sea?
Honestly, I don't know. Banyak. Banyak lah. I can't really remember the number, berapa banyak, tapi banyak. I think more, of course, more than thousands, right? Like, and there's a lot of fish species. So I don't have the exact number, unfortunately.
Okay, thank you so much, Doctor, for answering this question and for give a speech about the fish. We really appreciate it. So I like to thank you. And for the student, you can refer to the QR code to gain the e-certificate. So with this, our session is finished, and I'd like to thank you for all for joining our event this morning. So I see you guys next week, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.